What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your $1,400 third stimulus check update. Today is a great day as the U.S. House of Representatives has passed the $1,400 third stimulus check package. This is the bill that includes $1,400 for adults, $1,400 for each child, and $1,400 for adult dependents and college student dependents, although that money will go to the person who claims them as a dependent. Everybody will get the check. If you're on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, regular people, everybody will receive the check as long as you have a Social Security number and you make below the income requirements of $75,000 for a single filer. Up to $99,000 will receive a reduced check. Couples, you can double that. $150,000 and below will receive the full check. Up to $200,000 will receive a reduced check. Head of household single filers will get a full check up to $112,500 and go to a reduced check up to $150,000. So $1,400 checks for basically everybody with those qualifications. This does include, in addition, the $3,000 to $3,600 child income tax credit, which will be paid out in monthly increments of stimulus checks, basically on a monthly basis per child of $250 to $300 per month. There's all sorts of different things in this package, such as over $30 billion for mortgage assistance, rental assistance, property tax assistance, utility assistance. There's a $400 per week unemployment extension that will kick in mid-March when the current $300 per week unemployment extension ends, and will go until the end of August, on which they will probably pass another extension and another package at that time. There has already been another stimulus package announced called the Build Back Better package that will come right after this one and will likely be $2 to $3 trillion. So this bill has passed the U.S. House of Representatives. As you can see here, the bill passed with a vote of 219 yeses to 212 noes. So every single Democrat except for two voted for him, and not a single Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives voted yes on the third stimulus check package. Not a single Republican voted yes. The two Democrats who voted no against the bill were Kurt Schrader of Oregon and Jared Golden of Maine. The bill did not pass with bipartisan support because no Republicans voted for it. So it was just a single partisan that voted yes. Basically, only the Democrats voted for it with a final vote of 219 to 212. Here is what President Joe Biden has to say about this.
Good morning, folks. For a few weeks now, an overwhelming percentage of the American public has made it clear that they support my American Rescue Plan. And the House of Representatives took the first step toward making it a reality. And I want to thank, and I called her just a few moments ago, Speaker Pelosi for extraordinary leadership, and all those who supported our plan. And with their vote, we're one step closer to vaccinating the nation. We're one step closer to putting $1,400 in the pockets of Americans. We're one step closer to extending unemployment benefits for millions of Americans who are shortly going to lose them. We're one step closer to helping millions of Americans feed their families and keep a roof over their head. We're one step closer to getting our kids safely back in school. We're one step closer to getting state and local governments the money they need to prevent massive layoffs for essential workers. Now the bill moves to the United States Senate, where I hope it will receive quick action. We have no time to waste. If we act now, decisively, quickly, and boldly, we can finally get ahead of this virus. We can finally get our economy moving again. And the people of this country have suffered far too much for too long. We need to relieve that suffering. The American Rescue Plan does just that. It relieves the suffering. And it's time to act. I thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.
So really the details are now what matters. As the House has passed this, the U.S. House of Representatives, it now goes to the Senate. And if the Senate can pass the bill as is, then it will go to the president to sign the very same day or the very next day. And as you know from the previous stimulus check, if you're on direct deposit, these checks start going out within a matter of just a few days. Some people got their checks as early as 5 days after the president signed this. So we are very close to having the actual money in your check. But this is where the details really matter. And this is because the U.S. House of Representatives passed the bill with the $15 an hour minimum wage provision in there. So normally that wouldn't be a big deal, except for just literally about 48 hours ago, we had a lady called the Senate Parliamentarian rule that the $15 an hour minimum wage, the way the current wording was written, cannot be included in the stimulus package bill and passed with the reconciliation process, which is how they're going to have to pass it in the Senate. They have to pass it in the Senate through this special process because, well, there's no Republican support. Not a single Republican voted yes on this package in the U.S. House of Representatives. And that is what we are expecting in the Senate. We're not expecting a single Republican to say yes. So they're basically passing this bill, the entire stimulus package bill, with these special clauses for the reconciliation process. To do that, you only need 51 votes to pass in the Senate. There's 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans, 50 yeses, 50 noes. The tiebreaker goes to the Vice President Kamala Harris, who will be the 51st vote. That is what will happen. The question is, will the minimum wage be included in that bill? And there's a couple different things that can happen. Number one is the Senate can overrule the parliamentarian who's not even an elected official. She's just an advisor to the Senate. She's not in an elected position. She doesn't get voted on like a senator or a House of Representatives person does. She says that the minimum wage provision cannot be in the bill based on the reconciliation process and the Byrd rule. Basically, she's saying that it does not affect the budget, the national budget, so that it cannot be included to be passed through the budgetary reconciliation process. So the Democrats have several different options to pass the bill with the minimum wage, or they may have to take the minimum wage out. Either way, they're going to pass the bill. The question is, will minimum wage be in there, and how much of a delay will there be? Number one is they can just overrule the parliamentarian with a simple majority vote of 51 votes. However, it doesn't look like Senator Joe Manchin and possibly Kirsten Sinema will vote for that. So that's easier said than done. But they could just get 50 votes, tiebreaker goes to Kamala Harris, and simply overrule her. Boom, it's passed, and then the entire package is passed. Then the checks go out. Okay, we're that close. But if they can't overrule her because they don't have all the votes, what they can do is they can modify the wording to the bill. Let me talk about another option here that has been brought up now and is actually a huge, huge big deal for going forward. And that is that there is dozens of Democrats already calling for a renewed push to remove the filibuster rule in the Senate completely. Removing the filibuster would mean that every single bill could pass without having to go through the reconciliation process and the Byrd rules. Every single bill, whether it's stimulus or not, climate change, unemployment, stimulus packages, bills for the military, bills for literally anything could be passed with a simple majority vote of 51 votes. That is how the U.S. House of Representatives is. Remember, they passed that with only a two-vote swing. So they could have had two more Democrats say no and still passed it. If three more Democrats would have said no, they wouldn't have been able to pass it. Well, the Senate has this filibuster rule, which requires 60% or 60 votes to pass a normal bill in the Senate. It used to be 67, but they reduced it basically through passing legislation that says we don't want to require that many votes because it's too hard to get 67 votes in the Senate. 67% is the amount needed. It's a very high amount on any bill that's not unanimous. Getting 67% of votes is very, very hard to do. That's actually the amount of votes required to do in a veto override. We've seen that right at the end of President Donald Trump's term when he overridden and he vetoed the NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. That was the first bill, I believe, that actually came back to Congress, and the House and the Senate actually veto override President Trump at the time and overrid his veto. Okay, you needed 67% of the votes, and they literally barely just did that. Okay, it's very hard to do. I believe that was the only time that happened to then President Donald Trump, and his veto was overridden. So getting 67% is a very hard thing to do. Well, 60% is really not that much different because, well, as you can see, they're not going to pass this third stimulus check package bill with 60%. So an option is to completely remove the filibuster, vote on this, and pass this legislation in the Senate and remove the filibuster completely. This would make it so that anybody in the Senate, Democrats, Republicans, bipartisan votes, can pass bills going forward for eternity with only 51 votes in the Senate. So if the Republicans take back the Senate in 2 years, they will be able to do this. Democrats will be able to do this. Bipartisan groups will be able to do this. And that's how it is in the House of Representatives right now. You simply vote, you pass the bill with 50% of the vote plus one vote. So one vote over 50%. Remember, the House of Representatives has over 400 members. Okay, so literally one vote over, and that's how they did it. They literally had two more votes to spare to be able to pass it. If they had gotten three more no's, they wouldn't have passed it. That's how close it was. The Senate's just as close. It's a 50-50 tie, and they're going to pass this through the reconciliation process. The problem is that they have currently included the $15 an hour minimum wage in that bill. So they're going to have to pass it with the $15 an hour minimum wage and overrule the parliamentarian, which Senator Joe Manchin said he doesn't want to do. We also have a previous statement from the White House. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klein said this week that the White House was not in support of overruling her. Well, now she's ruled against them, so anything could change at this point. But the other thing they can do is amend the wording of the minimum wage bill, and this is a possibility too. Here's what Senator Bernie Sanders, who's the Senate Budget Chairman, has to say.
When we talk about the American economy today, I think the most salient and important point to be made is that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck because the wages they receive are just too low. As all of you know, the federal minimum wage now is a starvation wage of $7.25 an hour. Congress hasn't raised that since 2007, and the result is that millions and millions of people are working 40, 50 hours a week, and they're still having trouble paying the rent, feeding their kids, going to a doctor when they should. And that is why we must raise the minimum wage to at least $15 an hour. And the other point here, which is really a scandal, is that you have many large corporations owned by some of the wealthiest people in this country. For example, Walmart. Walmart is the largest employer in America. It is owned by the Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, worth about $200 billion. And by the way, their wealth has gone up by $50 billion during the pandemic. You got one of the Waltons, a gentleman named Rob Walton, who owns tens and tens of millions of dollars in antique cars. He loves antique cars. Tens of millions of dollars he owns in antique cars. And yet this company, Walmart, starts its workers off at $11 an hour, a starvation wage. And it's not just Walmart. You got McDonald's, you got Burger King, you got Dollar General, you got Dollar Tree, you got all of these companies out there that are often very, very profitable. They pay their CEOs very big bucks, millions of dollars a year, and yet somehow they can't pay their workers a living wage. And what happens is that when workers are forced to live on starvation wages and they get food stamps as they need to, as they get Medicaid as they have to, as they live in public housing, who do you think is paying that bill? The middle class, the working class of this country is paying substantial amounts of money in taxes. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars a year, subsidizing the Walton family. Does that make any sense to anybody? We are subsidizing the Walton family because they can't pay decent wages to their workers, and their workers are forced to go on public assistance. That is outrageous. So together, we're going to turn this thing around one way or the other. But at the end of the day, we need an economy that works for all, not just the 1%, not just the Walton family. That means that every worker in this country who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty. So let's keep going. Let's go forward. And let's address this enormous crisis. Thank you very much.
So the Senate trying to pass this bill with the $15 an hour minimum wage. Note that it only goes up to $15 an hour by 2025. It goes up by about $1 or $2 per year on average. The Senate is already moving to a plan B to be able to get this wording of the minimum wage bill included in the stimulus package. They're going to do this by Senate Democrats are trying to finalize a new tax provision that would penalize large companies that pay low wages. The move comes after Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough ruled Thursday night that a $15 an hour minimum wage hike cannot be included in the COVID relief package and pass through the reconciliation process. They could still pass it with this wording in here. But this new plan is being drafted by aides of the Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden of Oregon in close consultation with Bernie Sanders, which will impose a 5% payroll tax penalty on, quote, very large companies that do not pay workers a certain amount. That amount is still unclear and is probably $15. Under this proposal, which Senate Democrats hope to have finished within the next few days, smaller businesses that raise their workers' wages would be eligible for an income tax credit of up to 25%, up to $10,000 per employee per year tax incentives to increase their wages for small businesses only. So the reason why they're doing this is a tax incentive to small businesses to pay a higher wage and a tax penalty to large corporations that likely make $1 billion a year or more, a penalty to them if they don't pay $15 an hour. By doing that, having a tax credit and a tax penalty, that basically makes the minimum wage affect the budget. By affecting the budget, you can have it in the Senate budgetary reconciliation process and pass it with the reconciliation card, the reconciliation process. So now, the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough will have to re-rule on this, but honestly, there's no way that I can see that she could rule. I mean, she could still rule against this, but I mean, that definitely affects the budget now if you add those clauses in there that makes employers either pay money to the government in a penalty that affects the budget, or they get money from the government in a tax credit that affects the budget. So either way, if they do that, it looks like that will fly and will be able to be included in the package. But will they be able to get 51 votes from Democratic senators like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema who are against the $15 an hour minimum wage? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I will keep you updated. We're going to have lots of breaking news. Make sure you don't miss out on new episodes. New videos come out every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos. It's completely free. After subscribing, you can click the bell icon to all notifications so you get notifications when we go live with new videos. For at least the first 3 videos, you won't get a notification for the 11 p.m. video. You just got to show up for that when the time is due at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You also can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have dozens of students that have replaced their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. Click on one of those videos to watch them next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.